Russ Fritz.
And I'm Nathan Johns,
Sit back, relax, and join us for the ride while we're switching grooves.
Switching Grooves. How you doing tonight, Russ?
Oh, not too bad, Nathan. How you been?
Doing pretty good. Getting excited about the playoffs. We're on to the second round now, finally, in NASCAR.
Finally, on to the second round.
With
Let's
all
go.
kinds of news articles, I guess we'll go with.
Oh, let's go ahead and get into it, buddy. Go ahead and start this week, man.
Well, let's start with the elephant in the room. Bristol in the spring was tire wear galore. The fall cutoff race of the Chase had anything but. I have never seen a race be so boring in my life at Bristol. I thought the race in the spring was bad with how fast they were going through tires. But I was very crudely mistaken on how bad a race at Bristol can get with the next gen car. I was very disappointed. When the only cars that really crash out are the ones that crash every single week, and there's only, I think, 2 cautions for incident on track. It's not a Bristol race. It's a snooze fest, and I am very disappointed in NASCAR. As they say, they are baffled. I'm baffled too on why they keep thinking this car is actually going to do any good. I'm very disappointed. I mean, congrats to Kyle Larson for winning the race and leading, I think, 462 of 500 laps. But at the same time, this is the same issue we had at North Wilkesboro with the All Star race. Dominated the race, became a snooze fest by the halfway point. If we're going to have a good race, make it a good race. If not, forget it. Just take it off the schedule and just tick off a lot more NASCAR fans. They're more or less, NASCAR is banking on Goodyear to bail them out of this situation. It is really hard to bail them out when the racing does not require any skill. And that's very sad to say. That these are supposed to be the top racers in the country competing on a weekly basis in the top tier division. It's pretty sad when the Xfinity Series has more skilled drivers or more requirement or skill requirement than the Cup Series does, because these cars basically drive themselves. There's no skill required. Really, there's no, the car basically takes care of itself. It doesn't make any certain skill stand out. You go out there and you race, and it's become a disappointment. I used to love watching, the Bristol night race. After last night or this past race, I don't know if it's even worth even, they need a complete schedule shakeup if they're going to save this season, because the next gen car sucks on short tracks.
I
That's
can only
my 2
imagine.
cents on that topic. Uh, Also, last week was the final week of Justin Haley being in the 51 and Corey LaJoy being in the 7. As of Kansas, their rides have officially swapped, where Justin Haley will now be in the 7 car and Corey LaJoy will be in the Rick Rowe Racing's 51, which honestly sounds like a better pairing than where they were originally, because Corey couldn't drive for crap. It now sounds like he's at a team that will be running back of the pack like he normally is. So it's more suited, and Justin Haley will have some better equipment that more suits his specialties, where I think he can actually compete now and show that Corey should be flipping burgers, in my opinion. Instead of stacking pennies, stacking burgers on a Big Mac. Because I'm sorry, Corey, if you're watching this, stop making excuses. I know that I can't
Nathan
say
doesn't like
much,
those excuses.
but it's pretty bad when YouTube can roast you faster than you can, defend yourself. And keyboard warrior this, keyboard warrior that, the stats speak for themselves. He had what I think one good race with Hendrick, and we all thought he was going to be the next Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, William Byron. He has been anything but. And I'm sorry to say it, but I wonder sometimes how he got that ride. other than the money. I really wonder sometimes this stuff.
It's hard to say, man. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know what to say about it. It's
Maybe if we go
he's
back
never won a race
to
in his life.
acquire, maybe if we go back to a car that actually requires some sort of skill to drive, then maybe
Maybe
we would have, a clear picture on why he either should be in the Cup Series or should be driving for the ARCA Series on local tracks, not the national televised ones. It's become a joke at this point. It's a weekly topic that should have been out to dry after Indy. I mean, he's run into Jimmy Johnson countless times. He's run over Kyle Busch at Pocono.
he's
That is still an
rival.
ongoing joke that Kyle's going to pay him back. That's the same style joke that Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin have had. Neither one of them can really do much, and I'm not really blaming Kyle because this next gen car has basically screwed him. I mean, I think I sent you a link earlier this week with Kyle Larson's quotes on he was just glad that Kyle Larson went to RCR rather than staying at Gibbs because
I
that
mean, Kyle
was,
Busch.
that's, I mean, Kyle Busch, yeah.
Yeah,
That's what made it, so Kyle could actually win some of these races. Because Kyle used to be good on Bristol and whatnot, and now he's anything but good. He's mediocre at best.
he's
And I,
anything
I
but
really do
good
feel
anyway
bad for him.
in this car. I mean, I hate to say it, but I have to agree with his wife in the post that she was making to get rid of this car.
It's
Like
it's
this,
pretty sad. It is. And
and
I
I don't say
really
that
posted it.
because it seems like Bush hasn't figured it out yet. I just say that because it just sucks anyways. You know, we talk about it all the time, and I don't want to get into a deep conversation about it again. But
Yeah.
just all the crap with it. The cars are flipping over now. Okay, the aero blocking is just absolutely ridiculous. So it makes these races very uninteresting.
Yes. Well,
And
just
the
some
pit
basic
stops, I
stats
mean,
for Kyle.
they may as well just eliminate freaking pit stops altogether
Yeah. Some
because
basic stats for Kyle is, he was amazing in the Gen 5 car. I think they said he had some 20 some wins on short tracks, and then he went down with the Gen 6. I think he had about half of that.
why
He
did
went,
that come
he
up?
had all these wins on short tracks, and now he has his best finish is a top 20 at Bristol. This Kyle could go out any given week at Bristol and dominate the field, and now he's lucky to get a top 20 at best. I
Yeah,
don't know if it's more RCR screwing him over or the next gen car. Either way, neither one is helping his case for somebody who should be able to run up front and has known success at these tracks. It's really sad to think that, you know, he's now more or less, sitting along the curb, kick to the curb. It's become so bad. I
so
mean, I don't like Kyle Busch very much. He's not my favorite. He's probably scored higher than Denny, but I still don't like him very much because I feel like he's a little cocky. At the same time, you got to have some sort of sympathy for him because he went into this thinking it was going to be good, and it has turned out anything but
and they
down the
promised him it
tubes.
would be. That's the thing. They promised him so much that it would be, and things would change, and they'd be winning. And
And he's won what 5 races his first year at RCR, and then has gone nowhere but down the tubes in his sophomore season with the team. It is almost as bad as the last year at JGR. It's become a laughing stock at that.
I don't think it was so much about, I don't know, trying to better the team when it comes to having a good driver. I think it was more of the name.
I think it was more of the name. I do feel like that is very
Try to
accurate. It
bring
was
that
more of a big name joining
exactly.
together because they always compared, Kyle Busch and Dale Earnhardt Sr. Well, why don't we do this for the headlines? Didn't do you any good, statistic wise. In fact, it made your statistics plummet. So I feel like it was more of the press conference thing to try to make themselves relevant again at RCR. Because let's
Yeah.
think of it this way: when Kevin Harvick, was there, started out great, then dropped the turned into crap towards later on. Couldn't really do much with RCR. Towards the end of his career, they brought in all these new guys, and that's when Kevin went to Stuart Haas. You know, when Kyle Busch came, same sort of stat line. You know, hold my watch during Kevin Harvick's time, hold my watch with Kyle Busch. Both of them resulted the same way. We get a third driver, all of a sudden we're now going to see a pattern. It's sad to say, but this is the storyline that just keeps repeating itself at RCR. They were good back in the day, then they went to crap. Got a new driver, was good, went to crap. I would
Well, yeah,
love to say
they
that it's not going to happen a third time, but we've seen how RCR has been. They had a good driver, it went down. Their performance dropped off later on. Get another good driver, drops off. You start out real hot and then turn into cold as ice at the end. And I almost it's almost time to put RCR out to the pasture. It feels like because the team really is not relevant anymore. The only headlines we really have from them all year is Kyle Busch struggling performance wise and Austin Dillon playing bumper cars. That's our headlines for RCR this year. Is other than the pit stops, they suck.
That's about it. That's about all I can say about it. You
It's
hit the
very
nail on the
frustrating.
head because it's I don't know, it's just getting sad to see a team of that caliber at one time just go down the tube.
They used to be I feel like they used to be one of the top, when you think of top competing teams in NASCAR, the ones that come to mind from back in the day, like back in their heyday, I guess we'll call it Hendrick, Gibbs, Penske, and RCR. Those are the ones I can rattle off that were. Oh, and Roush Fenway. Or yeah. So we got Roush Fenway, we got JGR, we got Hendrick. Or let's see, yeah, Penske, RCR, Roush Fenway, Gibbs, and Hendrick. Those five are the big five that you think of. Now we have three of them at best. I will give Roush Fenway credit.
And I
They're on their way back up.
and to be honest
But
with you, in my opinion here, it is kind of sad to say, and I'm not saying because of who they are, but yet I am, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but it's sad to say that 2311 is even a better team than RCR now.
I mean, you are not wrong with that by any means. It is sad to say you've got Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick. There have been more jokes about 2311 and their drivers than than good stats coming out of RCR. You've had more funny content made about 2311 than decent, news about RCR. I mean, RC or 2311 can at least perform, and that's why people are putting funny stuff out there, like Tyler Reddick having two skid marks. You know,
Yeah.
like really, we're gonna make jokes about that, but at the same time, we can still make jokes about RCR because their team is so bad. At least 2311 is getting jokes made about them, and they can still perform. We're making jokes about RCR's team because they're so bad. It's almost like they're Rick Ware racing level. And if it weren't for Justin Haley, they'd be equivalent because Rick Ware Racing runs at the back every week. They're no different than RCR at this point. They may even be scored better because they at least have a driver who could perform. Now I'm not so sure. We're going to see Kansas. their one good driver went to a Spire team, so we'll see how that plays out. I did see a video from Eric Estep this week about Justin Haley being a Hendrick driver, and the report from Brad Keselowski. That one's an interesting story for me. I'm curious to hear more details on that one,
I guess
because
Brad said
obviously,
that he couldn't make the offer that Hendrick was offering him, and I can believe that.
and I understand that too, but that's news to me that Hendrick was even involved in that deal. Like I know that they're partner teams, and they're more or less, they bounce information off each other. But the fact that Rick Hendrick was involved in that Justin Haley deal is kind of surprising to me because if that's the case, do we see a shakeup in the drivers and rides for
Well,
2025, if not 2026?
and
Do we
I
see
I'm
Justin Haley maybe taking over the 48 in 2026 or
I'll
whenever
tell you,
Bowman's deal ends?
I also think we're going to see a huge improvement in Spire Motorsports next year because did you actually hear the latest that they are actually working with Chevrolet to become a tier one team?
I did hear that, and that's
It's
going to be very
interesting.
interesting to me because that means that there's going to be at least two tier one teams in Chevy's camp. And we obviously have supposedly two with Ford, with Penske, and Front Row. So I want that'll be interesting to see. Toyota is obviously going to be Gibbs and probably 2311, but it's very possible that we'll have six teams across three makes that could
Right.
potentially be contending for wins every week, which will be might be better. It might try to, you know, not make the next gen look so bad. I still question that one. But with
That's
Spire possibly becoming tier one, that could be a good thing.
the Gen 6 car was good. I was okay with that. This car sucks. I'm sorry.
Man, you're
I won't.
not wrong with that.
Anyway, we got away from the first of all, they don't even look like NASCARs anymore. They got hood louvers and all this bull crap. You know, they're trying to mix sports to make us look more appealing to other motorsports when that was what made NASCAR what it was stand out on its own. But anyway, we're gonna get
Yeah,
off track if we go into that. So,
my bad.
but no, I brought it up, not you. But uh, with Spire becoming this tier one team and working with Hendrick now, I'm gonna tell you what, we're gonna see a significant improvement in that team. I mean, that's just my
I
opinion.
think this could be a game changing move
Yeah, and it's
on
not gonna be an
Spire's
over.
Motorsports.
It's not gonna be overnight, but they've gotten rid of, Corey LaJoy. I wish him well. He's a great person, but driving, I'm just, in my opinion, he just doesn't have it. You know. Now they're bringing in Justin Haley, which is under contract with Hendrick,
Yeah,
so that means they're going to be working with Hendrick, and
and Hendrick is tier one.
they're spending the money on the guys that they need to, like Rodney Childers.
Yes,
That is a future Hall of Famer crew chief right there.
and that's kind of a surprising move for me. I thought Rodney Childress would have stayed with Ford. At the same time, he had a lot of success with Chevy. I don't know if they were together at RCR or whether it was just at Stewart Haas. But, Harvick won that championship with
No,
Rodney Childress at Stewart Haas. So it's very possible
Childers
that it.
Childers didn't partner with Harvick until he went to Stewart Haas. While he was at Richard Childress, he had a mixture of guys. He had Todd Barrier, which
That's
is
right. I
actually a
remember.
really good friend of Kevin's, and actually hooked him up with his wife Delana.
Yeah.
I don't think Todd Barrier was a very good crew chief,
But either way, when it
but
comes
he,
back
he
to Rodney Childress being in a Chevy equipment, that's going to be second nature for him because I feel like he was really good with
I don't
Kevin
really
Harvick when he did it. And I feel like all of a sudden that sparked something that, none of us thought was going to be there. I mean, Kevin was known as the closer, but when that change came, all of a sudden it was like, wow, he's actually really good with Kevin in the Chevy equipment. So hopefully that'll transfer over from when Harvick won with Stuart Haas. I think it was 2014.
14, yeah.
Hopefully
It's
that
actually his
success will
first year.
transfer over to when he goes back to Chevy with Justin Haley, possibly. Hopefully that's the case
Now, see,
because I
I've
don't know if
heard
they've
both.
announced.
I've heard one side say that he's gonna be working with Michael McDowell, and then I've heard the other side say he's gonna be working with Haley. Now, in my opinion, they should put him with Haley
I think
because
so. Also,
McDowell is probably gonna retire within the next 3 to 5 years, if not sooner. So they need to stick him with someone that he can work with long term, and
yeah, I
they
feel
can
like
get to
this is
know
going
each
to be
other.
an
And
exit thing for McDowell.
oh yeah,
I do have that
after
feel.
he's done at Spire, I believe he's just done.
I do find it very intriguing that all these guys that race for Ford are now going over to Chevy. McDowell raced for Ford this year. Now he's going to Chevy with Spire next year. Haley was driving a Ford. Now he's going to be in a Chevy this week. This is kind of, you know, I don't know if it should set off, hey, something's going on here type of thing, but it makes you wonder why all these Ford drivers are switching over to Chevy all of a sudden. Maybe it's the dominance with Chevy drivers and Toyota, but you see more drivers going from Ford to Chevy than Ford to Toyota, and that was kind of surprising to me.
It
Is think about all the drivers that have changed. It's kind of odd. Like it makes you wonder if Ford is a lower tier manufacturer in NASCAR. I mean,
I
they
believe
used
they
to be
are.
good, and I wonder if their worth in NASCAR is dropping off. Obviously, we don't know any of the stats with GM if they're going to bring the Camaro back next year, if we're going Cadillac or what we're doing. But
No, they've kind of
Ford
kept
with
that.
this dark horse, I thought was going to be good, and it started out decent, but now I'm on the fence about it. They
I
showed speed, and now they're just meh.
I don't think it showed a much of a difference between the original and the new car. I mean, it
I
just.
don't think it's any different. They could just relabeled it. I really do. There's not much of a
I
difference
mean,
there.
the fenders flare up a little bit more on the hood side, like the old '70s Corvette Stingrays used to. They come up like that, and
See,
there's some
I always feel like
slight
it looks like the
variances in the
mock.
body.
Was it the Boss Mustang, the 302 Boss, or whatever they are? It kind of looks like one of those to me. Like it's got that flat hood with the arch at the very front. That it makes me think of the old 70s Mustangs, like the 302 Boss or something. I forget what it was, but it looks to me the cars look like that in the
You might be
front.
thinking of the old Mach.
That might be the mock. I thought it was a Boss 302 for some reason. But that's just what when I look at those cars in the front, it makes me think of those. The rest of the car looks like crap with the splitter and the diffuser. Like I understand the idea of trying to keep the Mustang looking the same. In my opinion, it looks
And
like
that's
the
with any
old
car.
Mustangs, but it's really not performance wise any better than any other car they had, if not maybe a little worse. But that's just my 2 cents on it. I personally can't stand Ford as a company in general, but they have had success in NASCAR, but I feel like the success is running its course and they're not as good anymore. I
No,
mean,
you
Toyota
ever
or not Toyota, Pontiac was, well known. They started not winning as much towards the end. Everybody went to Chevy. Dodge was great in NASCAR. They just dropped off the face of the earth. Everyone went to Ford. Now
no,
I'm not so sure
there's
that
something
somebody else
that's
should come in.
Here's something that's a little off NASCAR topic, but still on Ford topic. Was did you see? I think it was about 2 weeks ago that Ford actually partnered with Elon Musk and Tesla.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. I still don't quite understand the concept of that. I did see something about Cards Against Humanity
Now,
suing Elon Musk, so that is a whole other topic that I think is quite comical.
now everybody's trying to say that you see it all over the news, like the YouTube news and stupid stuff like that. Not the actual
Yeah,
news, but you see a lot of people saying, "Oh, Elon bought Ford," and that's not the case. They
yeah.
partnered with something to do with the electric vehicles,
And
and
on the
not the.
topic of those in general, NASCAR. I have yet to see something about this electric NASCAR series. I'm hoping that is gone for good, and I never hear about that ever again because that has to be the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. We saw
I
the
mean,
prototype in Chicago, and I hope I never see another one again because it just sounds dumb.
I
I'm
can
worried we go into F1 style starts at that point.
I could get behind it if it is a support series, something they took overseas where they do have a lot more electric vehicles and left it at that, in their shorter races. Obviously, they're going to have to be shorter races.
They should
And
just send it
I
to
could
the
I could get
Canada
behind it.
series.
I could get behind it like that, but not to replace NASCAR altogether. No, I mean with NASCAR is what it is now, and they
I
try to
don't
replace
even
it.
know if I can see them
No,
racing them in North America. Period. I can't see Canada racing electric cars.
that
Unless
would
they're
need to be a
running the
more of
E Formula series.
That would need to be more like an international, worldwide kind of series where they travel like F1 does, different countries here
Yeah,
and there, and they race on different road courses or whatnot. I mean,
but
even
when it
ovals,
comes
whatever they
to a
want to do. But
NASCAR support series, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like even if they wanted to run a race with NASCAR, NASCAR doesn't relieve North America. They're going to Mexico. That's the extent of it. I can't see them racing electric NASCARs prior to the Xfinity race in Mexico. That's really going to chase everybody away from watching the actual show of the Xfinity race and the Cup race, which honestly, I feel like the Cup race or the Xfinity race is going to be way better than the Cup race. Xfinity should absolutely blow Cup out of the water like they do every week. I I'm
oh yeah,
telling them
that's what it was meant to be. But I'll tell you, there was a time where the Cup Series was actually falling off to the trucks and the Xfinities
they still are
because
now.
I
That's
mean,
the sad part.
there's been a lot better competition because of the guys are such closer in range when it comes to driving skill.
Yes. I mean, once you get to the Cup Series, you've kind of reached the pinnacle. So all the people who are just getting into there are still working their way up, and all the people that are in there already are already at the top. You can't go any higher. Kind of like the glass ceiling thing. You hit the ceiling, you can't go any further. You know, it's almost it almost makes you feel like it's the end of the line for your end of the line for your racing career. You get to the Cup Series, now you can retire because you ain't getting any better. You're not going anywhere after that. Maybe be a team owner, but even then, you have to be really successful in the early 2000s to even pull that off, or early 2010s. Because right now, Brad Keselowski was great in the 2010s. He's now an owner. This is kind of the pattern they take to where you become mediocre. You know, Gordon was really well known. He's now the owner of, co-owner of Hendrick. Team's still running great because they've got people who can, keep it going. Jimmy Johnson went to Legacy Motor Club. They're still new. They still are. They have still yet to impress me. I guess we'll call it. Eric Jones has had his flash of success. John Hunter Nemechek has kind of just yeah. But all these guys that are retiring and becoming team owners, it kind of just
Yeah.
shows the stereotypical path you take.
So
It's not doing any good.
So now that we are down to 12 people, who do we have left? And who do you think will be out this week?
Honestly, and this is what I was waiting for, is I wanted to see
Now
what the points were going to be
let's go through the
after.
list. Let's go through the list of guys that are left first
I'm trying. I
before
haven't
we
pulled it up.
decide who is going to be
The
eliminated this
remaining
round.
12 in order are Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, Hacklin, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Austin Cindric, Daniel Suarez, Alex Bowman, and Chase Briscoe. Now, keep in mind, this is prior to Kansas. If they kept them the same way they were from where they started, not started, but if they hadn't reset the points in the next round, every single one of the drivers in the bottom 12 would still be at the top of the list. Joey Logano was number one prior to Bristol. He's now number 8. Austin Cindric, Daniel Suarez, and Alex Bowman were all in the top 5 of points. Now they are ninth, 10th, and 11th. And Chase Briscoe miraculously has poured it on since his Darlington walk-off win. I still can't even wrap my head around the fact that they couldn't do anything right. They couldn't even perform up till Darlington. He wins one race, and it's like a light switch went off. And he is now insanely good at racing all over again. Like when he had his win at Phoenix, you know, had that little bit of momentum and it disappeared almost immediately. He has now managed to race almost up front the last 3 weeks, which is baffling to me. I mean, he had a bad crash at Atlanta, and we thought he was all out of it. And he somehow managed to move on, which shocks me that he was able to move on after, what we all thought he was going to be gone. Um, my first 4 out for this round, I gotta say,
Your 4 picks for this round.
that are going to be eliminated. After watching the last round, I don't know. I'm gonna have to say Chase Briscoe because there's no way he can do it twice. If he does, he will definitely not make the round of 4.
He got
But
lucky, in my
he,
opinion.
I
Anyway,
honestly am shocked that he made it to the round of 12. If he makes it through this round somehow, he will be eliminated next round. But I have him going this round. Uh, remaining drivers, if Denny does it again, he'll be in the round of 8. I I'm not sure. Kansas is good to Toyota, so maybe he'll make it to the round of 8. But we also got to remember Tyler Reddick is still in this. Tyler Reddick and 2311 have been absolutely insanely good at Kansas. So if Bubba doesn't come up with the upset, Tyler Reddick will probably end up winning at Kansas and moving on to the round of 8, which would deny Denny the pass to move on. With Talladega and the Roval coming up, if either one of them don't win Kansas, it's fair game to have them on the outside looking in. I can't see Denny winning at the Roval. I saw Christopher Bell do it, but at the same time, he was spectacular towards the end of the season. I think he won every single cutoff race that he needed to, except for Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney won the Martinsville race. But I mean, he denied Kyle Larson of the win at at Homestead after he ran into Blaney, and then he had essentially a Kevin Harvick season, walk off wins the entire way there. You know, won at Homestead and then immediately went and he actually won at the Roval and then did a walk off win and won his way into the final 4. lock. I think he was the first driver to lock himself in. I think it was. I believe
So
that's what it was.
so your four picks.
For being eliminated this round, I'm gonna say I hate saying it. I think I'm gonna eliminate Ryan Blaney this round. He's the defending champion, but I don't see him really unless he can pull a rabbit out of his ass at Talladega for like the fourth year in a row. Actually, you know what? I'm going to scratch that. I don't have Ryan Blaney get eliminated this round because somehow, I don't know
I don't think
how,
so
he
either.
manages to win Talladega every single year in the fall race. So I'm not going to count him out.
But did you see what Penske did this year? They got their cars in, and it seems like they laid back,
All
and then
three of them
they
are in the
turned it.
championship still.
Yeah, they turned it back on once they got to the playoffs, so they could keep advancing. But they once they
I
got their
think
cars
Cindric will
in,
be eliminated.
they've laid back. Now I'll give you my four since you're still kind of beating around the
I'm,
bush with
I'm,
your four.
I'm still very. I'm
My
shocked that
four
all these drivers are still here.
My four are actually going to be right in order with as they stand in the last four right now. To be honest with you, is my my four is Cindric, Soares, Bowman, and Briscoe, just as they stand. The last four on the list. Those
I'm
are going to be
gonna.
the four I think.
I would sub out Bowman because I feel like
I don't.
Bowman and Hendrick at Charlotte Roval can be lethal because obviously they've had success with Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson winning there. I think Kyle Larson won at the Roval. I think he did. I know Chase Elliott did. If I'm not mistaken, Kyle Larson won the Roval. But I really feel like he could have a chance at moving on because of that. I think he finished second to Chase at the Roval when Chase won. I am not going to count Alex Bowman out yet. I honestly, I would put Joey in instead of Bowman in the final four because Joey really hasn't had much luck at road courses. He's kind of mediocre in my opinion. Um, Talladega, it's a wild card race, so we could have somebody who's not in the championship or in the playoffs win their way in, or not win their way in, but deny a chase driver of that secured spot. And I don't think Kansas is going to be very good to Joey. I mean, he may finish well. I don't think it's going to be a win your way to the next round race for him. I honestly feel like that's going to be a Toyota driver of Tyler Reddick and maybe Denny. But I would like to, I would think that Christopher Bell would probably have more success than Denny because Denny, I'm not going to say has unfortunately surprised me, but no, I wouldn't say pleasantly surprised me, but he's doing what he normally doesn't do. It's almost the opposite, and it's almost got him eliminated 2 weeks in a row. Like it baffles
True.
me that he tried the first 2 weeks, lay at the back at Atlanta, barely made it across the line. Had I think it was Justin Haley or no Todd Gilliland, not let him let him pass him. We could be singing a
Well,
totally different song here.
and and did you see? Now, I don't think NASCAR's going to do anything about it or even investigate it. But did you see how they're talking that Reddick backed up to let Hamlin get spots?
At the very end of that Atlanta race, I know Gillen let him go by, and Denny covered that in his podcast. And it makes you wonder that did manipulate the finishing order because he let him roll by him. He let off to let him roll. In my eyes, whether you're a Denny fan or not, that is kind of the definition of race manipulation is you let somebody pass you. You know, whether you're buddies or not. I'm not quite sure how that wasn't race manipulation.
I,
Reddick, letting him by.
Unfortunately, I didn't even get a chance to catch the highlight reel yet because I didn't catch the race.
Well,
We had a lot of stuff
here's
going on
here's
this
another
weekend.
one for you, and this goes back to Watkins Glen. Is I remember looking at the standings thinking, or maybe it was Bristol. Where did Bubba Wallace come from in that finishing? I think it was at Bristol. I believe he finished third. Where did he come from? I didn't even see him on the leaderboard in the top 10. And I think he finished fourth. How many people did he have to pass in that final lap to get fourth? Like, I went back to look and I couldn't figure out how he went from, not on my screen to inside the top five in a lap. I almost thought that NBC had made a mistake and, posted his name in third or fourth. Like, I didn't think he was that far up, and somehow he was top five at the end of that race. I didn't think he was anywhere in the top 10, and miraculously showing, you know, Kyle Larson, and I think it was Chase Elliott, I think finished second. And then they had, I think it was Bubba third, and I was like, wait a minute, how? He wasn't even there a lap ago. I thought it was a mistake, but I guess he did it, which makes you wonder because he passed Reddick and Larson, I think, because Larson, I think, was third at one, or not Larson. Hamlin was third coming to the white flag. So it makes you wonder, how did that happen? I
For
want to
sure.
see. I mean, obviously, it's only Wednesday, but I want to see if there's anybody who has made a commotion about it or if there is a penalty that we don't know about. Because the fact that he wasn't even in the top five on their thing at the top, and all of a sudden he finishes third. He had to pass two cars in four corners that were only a half mile in distance. That makes you wonder what happened that he magically was third in a half mile. It,
But I
there's a
mean,
lot of red flags that came up when I saw that. I was like, wait a minute, what?
so your pick for this weekend.
To be eliminated, I'm going to go with everything you said except for Bowman. I'm going to say that I'm going to eliminate Austin Cendric, Daniel Suarez, and Chase Briscoe, along with Joey Logano. I I
Okay.
understand Penske has had success at the Roval with Ryan Blaney. I don't think he'll do it again. I honestly feel Ryan Blaney got lucky when he won the inaugural one, so I don't think they had very much success up to that point,
So
or up to this point.
your pick to win this weekend.
This weekend at Kansas. Oh, I'm gonna say Reddick. I gotta say Reddick. I mean, Hendrick and Busher definitely surprised me, but there was only one RC or one Roush Fenway car in the field, and they got eliminated last week with Brad Keselowski. I mean, unless Busher can pull something off and do it again, you know, great call. Got robbed by Kyle Larson. I mean, I would feel like I got robbed if that was me. And
So
he won last week, or not last week. He won 2 weeks ago, so maybe that redeems him. I don't think Busher will win. I honestly feel like it'll be a chase driver, and I feel like it'll be Reddick winning this week.
I'm gonna have to go with. It's hard to pick one, so I'll name two that I think have a good chance and shot at winning. It would be Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson because they both have had amazing runs in the past on multiple occasions at Kansas. I mean,
I
look at
agree with
the race that Bubba right hooked Larson. Christopher Bell was actually right there and had a shot to win that race.
that was Vegas. That was not Kansas.
No,
That was actually Vegas.
that was Kansas.
No, when Bubba got put in the wall and hooked Larson, that was Vegas.
One where
That
he
was definitely
intentionally
Vegas.
crashed Larson and started shoving him around.
That
That
was
was in Las
Vegas.
Vegas.
Yes, it was. If I have to go back and look this up, I will. I know for a fact it was Vegas because Bell was on the cutoff line and it more or less eliminated him. I know
I don't
that for a
know.
fact.
I don't know.
I can quote you that one because it had the yellow wall. Because I'm trying to think who won that race. Was that? I don't think it was
Yeah,
Logano.
I'm not sure. All I know is I turned it off after that because that was ridiculous.
1 year ago, Kyle Larson and Bubba Wallace fight after wreck at Las Vegas.
Okay, so I was wrong. I didn't.
Score one
I
for me.
didn't. I didn't start following NASCAR closer until this year. So
Yeah, I definitely remember that. Now there was contact at Richmond. That was the only one I could have seen maybe get mixed up. But that was
or
earlier this year. They
did
had the
that all
Kyle Larson.
stem from another incident
No,
from
that was
they had a run in at Kansas somehow or another though.
Denny
I
Hamlin.
remember.
Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of the wrong.
Because
Yeah.
Danny was running second and turned Kyle into the outside wall coming down the backstretch.
Okay.
Only reason I remember that is because the 2311 driver of Kurt Busch was in the stands,
But
and his exact words was, "Run, Denny, run!"
either way, I still wasn't wrong about Larson and
Somebody
Bell
getting hooked. Yes,
having very good runs at Kansas in the past. So
Larson has had good runs. I believe Denny won the spring race, and I feel like was it Reddick who won the fall race?
so
I think.
but anyway, are you about ready to wrap up NASCAR? Because I got a
I think I'm
little bit of
wrapped up
dirt to get
on
into.
NASCAR. I'm gonna my final answer is gonna be Reddick, and I'll give you that one. I'll give you Reddick and Larson. I'll give Larson because you have a point with that one. My first four
Yeah,
out for this round
Kansas
will
is
be.
one of his better tracks.
I'm gonna say my four that'll be out will be Logano, Cendric, Suarez, and Briscoe.
Okay,
Those are my four.
so before we move on to the dirt, though, I want to remind everybody: don't forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe to our Facebook and YouTube channels at Switching Grooves on YouTube and just plain old Switcher Grooves on Facebook. So, looking forward to getting this on other platforms, and hopefully we'll be able to do that soon. And trying to catch up on a little bit of stuff and downloading more programs so we can actually edit videos and do more videos without having to be live all the time. So, oh man, it's just a long process. So hopefully we get there fairly quickly, but uh, it's coming. So anyway, I'm going to move on to the dirt if you're done, Nathan, and we will go from there.
One more point is it was Denny Hamlin and Kyle or Tyler Reddick won last year's Kansas race. Denny won the spring. Tyler Reddick won the fall. Denny has a first place and a second place, and Reddick was the only reason that Denny got second in the fall. Go ahead. Sorry.
I have a whole thing of notes here to read.
Oh boy.
He
Here we
says,
go.
"Oh boy." So, if I can get it to pull up here. There it is. So, at Sharon Speedway, the rescheduled 16th annual Lou Blaney Memorial took place, featuring a prize of $12,000 for the winner. A total of 38 sprint cars participated, including prominent competitors from Ohio, such as Cale Thomas, Cap Henry, Tim Schaefer, Greg Wilson, and Cole Duncan. Additionally,
Uh,
several other drivers from Pennsylvania were present, including AJ Flick, Carl Bowser, and Danny Dietrich. Ugh. The
One
race,
edit.
what's
Tyler
that?
or Tim Schafer is not from Ohio. He's from
I
PA.
I did catch that,
I was gonna say that's
and
not right.
I did catch that, but unfortunately, I just didn't have time to change the notes
You're
around.
good. I just want to make sure that was pointed out.
But the race commenced with Dave Blaney and Ryan Smith occupying the front row, both leading laps during the initial phase, with Blaney ultimately seizing control on lap 8 and successfully fended off a significant challenge from Danny Dietrich in the final laps to secure the victory. And this actually marked Dave Blaney's third triumph in the race, named in honor of his father. And while he was in victory lane, the Buckeye Bullet, as they call him, displayed visible emotion, which became understandable upon learning that this race was actually his final appearance in his remarkable sprint car racing career. During
What a way to go out with a bang.
during the live broadcast in Victory Lane on Dirt Vision, he remarked, "No better way to retire than to win this one." A sentiment that resonates strongly. A walk-off victory at his family's racetrack in an event dedicated to his father is indeed a fitting conclusion. Throughout his illustrious career, Blaney established himself as a formidable presence in sprint car racing, clinching the World of Outlaws Championship in '95, achieving 95 race victories. Now that is a feat.
That's actually insane to me.
And that placed him ninth on the all-time outlaw win list.
That's crazy.
But here's another good one. He also had 49 all-star wins. That's actually huge when it comes to the all-stars because they haven't been around as long as the Outlaws.
That's impressive.
He also celebrated crown jewel victories at Knoxville Nationals in '97 and twice at the Kings Royal in 1993 and 1995. Blaney transitioned this success into a lengthy NASCAR career, if you remember that,
I do remember that. That was one of my facts I was about to point out.
making 473 Cup Series starts from 1992 until 2014. And even at the age of 61, he remains a strong competitor behind the wheel of a 410 car, having won an outlaw event in 2021 and achieving, excuse me, two top seven finishes and just two outlaw starts in 2023, including a third place finish at Weed Sport. This year, he participated in 7 races, qualifying for the outlaw feature at Sharon in May and finishing no lower than fourth in 6 events across Sharon, Pennsylvania Motor Speedway, and Lernerville. What do you think about that?
That is an impressive feat that he's got so many different wins at so many different tracks.
The field at
Oh,
Sharon was actually
good.
strong and one of the strongest that we've actually seen this year in Ohio, let alone just Sharon. So I wish Dave a very happy retirement. He's had an extraordinary career. Um, I hope he enjoys this time. Dave, thank you for being such a humble driver, bringing entertainment to us for decades. No matter no matter what anybody says, love you, hate you on the track, off the track. We're all a big racing family. We all love you. Thank you very much for what you've done for us, and enjoy your retirement.
And one fun fact about Dave Blaney before we close out that one, he has one Xfinity Series win. There isn't any Cup Series wins, but there is one specific Xfinity win that he has that makes me kind of laugh because it's one of the tracks you'd expect him to be good at, but you don't expect the way it happened to be the way it is. He actually won at Charlotte in 2006 in the Xfinity Series, and what Alan, I believe it was Alan Beswick, calls it a wacky race at Charlotte. Which, if you go back and watch the highlights, it was by definition one of the most insane Xfinity races I think I've ever seen. Definitely, I believe it was him and Matt Kenseth battling for the win, and Kenseth spun off turn four, giving the win to Blaney. But it was insane watching the highlights from that particular. I believe it was the 2006 Dollar General 300, I think it was. But massive, massive highlights from him in the cups in NASCAR alone, but even greater highlights across the dirt world.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, dirt is where it was at with the entire Blaney family.
But the fact that he
So,
has that claim to fame in NASCAR makes it that much better. Also, the son of NASCAR champion Ryan Blaney. Sorry, there's my tie-ins.
so moving on to the next little bit. I didn't make it very long. I mean, it was a huge event, but I tried to keep it brief. But down at Eldora during the Four Crown Nationals this past weekend, the victories in the Kubota High Limit Sprint Car Series were claimed by Justin Peck and Rico Abreu. Each driver
Isn't that
maintained
Justin's first win?
each driver maintained the lead each and every lap of their respective feature events, and it was quite unexpected that Peck secured his first victory of the 2024 season so late in the year, having not won a race in a sprint car since the high limit event at Kokomo in August of last year. So
I got that one wrong. That was
finally,
my
he
fault.
finally gets to lift that weight off of his shoulders, and that's got to be a huge relief for him, and especially for a man that actually does this for a living and uses this to put food on the table. And Justin's actually a really good driver, really good person. I've met him. I've met his family at the local tracks around here. Just a great guy, and he just wants to race. So congrats to him. I was glad to see that. Also, congrats to Rico, another really cool guy. I mean, if you've never met Rico, you got to meet him. You just have to meet him,
He's fun.
and he's awesome. He's just really cool. So, reports indicated that it had been 93 races since Peck's last victory. So
That sounds about right.
it has to be pretty gratifying for him and his team. Like I said, especially for someone that uses this as a job to put food on the table. So, good job to him. Hopefully, this actually secures his future with Bush Motorsports, and they keep him on. I mean, I think he's going to do well. Sometimes you run into little ruts like that, and so I hope they keep him around for a while. I really like seeing him in that 13 car. So keep up the good work, Justin. Rico's Saturday victory actually marked his eighth win with high limit this season and his fourth in the last 9 races. So that's pretty impressive too.
It's another
Especially
Kyle
running
Larson.
especially running with guys of this caliber. I mean, these are some of the best of the best. They're either and these guys are either running, high limit or they're running outlaw. The top guys in the country. And Rico's is a family owned team. And to be able to do what he's doing, I mean, that's awesome. That takes a lot of talent, takes a lot of money, and I'm going to tell you what, it takes a whole team to accomplish something like that. So, congrats to his team and him as well. Uh, keep up the great work. I love seeing that car up front, and hopefully we get to see it a couple more times this year. So, Now he's actually passed Tyler Courtney. I forgot to mention that. He's actually passed Tyler Courtney to reclaim second place in the standings. So with only 6 races left in the high limit series this year, the next event is scheduled at Florence in September or on September 28th, which is this weekend. So moving on to the Outlaws. So just some quick stuff here. The Outlaws concluded their West Coast tour out in California with 2 events at the at the Tulare Thunder Bowl. Sorry, I always mispronounce that one. Friday night, Gravel ended a 15 race winless streak by leading the final 12 laps after starting from 6th. So, congrats to David Gravel. It always sucks to go that long without winning a race, but yeah, at least you
It
got it
wasn't
in
as
there.
bad as Justin Peck's streak.
No.
It was a lot shorter than his.
The race featured 4 different leaders and an impressive drive from Sheldon Haudenschild, who moved from 18th to 4th.
Dang.
The, the night before,
Wheeling that thing.
Carson Macedo dominated 35 laps. The entire 35 lap Dennis Roth Classic finale, and he just leading from the pole. He just led the whole race. So
Took the green and never looked back.
uh, lead the whole race. Well, you deserve this prize, $83,000. He got to take
Wow.
home, and that's one of the bigger payouts that the World of Outlaws have ever handed out.
That's pretty impressive.
So that was actually Macedo's 9th victory of the season. And the JJR 41 team continues to perform strong with only 12 races remaining. The points gap in the Outlaw Championship is now a battle between Gravel and Macedo and is only a 90-point margin. That's actually not a very big gap when it comes to dirt track racing and the way they run their point system.
And they've only got, what,
So
2 races, I think, in the next few days. Some of them are actually local, I hear.
Macedo faces a tight schedule as he needed to leave California with a closer margin to mount a serious challenge. It's a doable challenge, but it's going to be tough. So to catch up, he actually is going to need an average uh, points finish of 7.5 points per night during the World Finals.
Wow.
So that nearly translates out to be 4 positions per race that he needs to win or beat Gravel by. It's not impossible, but it is going to be a challenge. It's
Yeah.
doable. It's not likely, but I'm not going to say it's unlikely.
It's not unfeasible to do.
Yeah, it is
Unrealistic.
doable.
Yeah.
So, and like you said, the Outlaws are actually set to compete this coming weekend here in Ohio at Wayne County Speedway and Sharon Speedway this weekend. So,
I believe Wayne County is Friday and Sharon is Saturday with the Word Outlaws.
yeah. So that is what I have for dirt. I tried to keep it brief. I knew we were going to get into a lengthy NASCAR discussion, so
I always do. I'm sorry. I get on a roll and I can't help it.
so that's why also would like to ask our fans: would you like to see us do separate dirt and NASCAR shows twice a week? Maybe do short 8 to 15 minute clips every couple of days, every other day. I mean, like you see a lot of other guys. I mean, let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you, and we want to do what we can to make our broadcast better for you. Now
And
we're working on things. We're fairly new to this, especially the YouTube side. This was just something we did for fun and to bring all of our friends on with us and chat and BS, and all that good stuff, but we actually want to get a little more serious about it and turn it into something good. So let us know what you
One
think,
more. Sorry, good.
and we'll do our best to try and make that all happen. Go ahead, Nate.
I have one more NASCAR thing that I forgot to bring up during the
Oh,
NASCAR
gee.
segment. I have one more. It has been rumored that this is Dale Jr.'s final race at Bristol. I saw
Uh,
somebody had posted they were going to go to the Xfinity Series race next year to see him, but it has been rumored that he is not racing the
People are
Xfinity
saying it.
Series next year.
He's not even saying it's guaranteed to be his last race. He said he probably won't race next year, and he's not
Yeah.
looking at racing. But he said,
Well,
I'll probably miss it and get back in the car again. He said, he's not even
that's what he was
guaranteeing that.
saying. From
So
what I understand, it
I'm
was because of the deal with Hellman's that they did the Bristol race. I am I'm curious to see if it's actually gonna be his final race or if he does his Xfinity race elsewhere. The last few years he's done Bristol. I think that was why they did the deal at Bristol. But excuse me, via his interview on Pit Road, he says he's probably done doing Xfinity next year. But at the same
feed into it.
time, the post race or the in race audio says otherwise. I'm on the fence about it. I would like to see him come back. At the same time, I
To be
think it
honest,
would be cool to see him at other tracks also. But
I don't mean this as slander or anything bad against Dale Jr. I like the guy, really cool guy. I could care less if he came back or not because I mean it's not like he was his dad. So
Junior Nation will probably enjoy it. I kind of want to go see a race. I don't know if I want to go see it at Bristol only because he's had his ups and downs the last few years. I know this weekend he had radio troubles. I think he went through two helmets, two wiring harnesses, and two different push to talk buttons, which was kind of entertaining watching the on and off pit road and how they managed to get that so quickly. But just my report of, I saw that possibly Junior is done racing the Xfinity Series after this weekend. But then again, it's just a rumor. We don't know if that's actually confirmed or not. That's just based on initial reports.
so
What was
I
that?
guess we'll find. I don't believe it, but I guess we'll find out.
Hopefully, we'll find out soon.
Anyway, we need to call it a show, Nathan. So what do you think?
I think we did pretty good this week. We covered a lot of good stuff. Now let's hopefully the next round is as exciting NASCAR wise as it was the first round, but only time will tell.
So anyway,
Well, oh, sorry, I was very confused what you were saying for a second. All right, well, with switching grooves, I'm Nathan Johns.
and I'm Russ Fritz saying race hard,
Stay safe.
and we'll see you there. Good night,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.